Welcome to Read Between the Wines, where two bibliophiles discuss our love of the written word from cover to cover and cork to glass. Pour yourself a beverage and join us for this week's episode. Cheers!
Enter the book goblin.
Have you seen that TikTok?
Which one?
The girl who's the book goblin?
No,
So it's her talking to like the book goblin who is also her, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those TikToks. And she's like, what's wrong? Because like at one point the book goblin's like crying. She's like, what's wrong, book goblin? And book goblin's like, book goblin, not know what book to read next. And she's like, well, why don't I mix them up and then you can point to one and pick it and you'll read that one. And the book goblin's like, that might work. Like, it's the whole thing, and then they pick one, and the book goblin's like, not that one. I'm like, that is the most relatable thing.
Also same.
Right? Speaking of being a book goblin, welcome to today's episode, where we're actually talking a little bit about how you'll keep in your books. Where are you keeping them? If you're keeping them.
Are you keeping them?
Right?
What are we doing
and
with them?
Honestly, this is going to be the two of us with very different opinions.
Opinions?
Yes.
Yes,
different.
I'm going to relive something you hate.
Oh, God.
I'm bringing it back.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of my time on Threads. If you've been listening, you probably know that. If you're on Threads, you probably have seen me. Hi, it's me.
I'm the threader, it's me.
I'm the Threads. Actually, now I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, balls.
Oh, no! Haha, just kidding. I remembered. Woo!
Great.
People are like, how big is your TBR list? Like, what are we doing with it? And I'm like, I don't know that I have a TBR list so much as I have shelves and shelves and stacks of books.
That's me. I don't have a list. If you had, like, what's
I'm
on
like,
your TBR, I'm like, I could tell you 2 books.
All of them?
Right?
Like, everything in this house. Everything in this house is
Anything
my
on
TBR
floors
list.
2 and 3.
Right? Anything that I have in my possession that I have collected and hoarded is TBR, and a vast amount of books to be bought that I want to read but I don't possess. If
Right?
that makes sense.
She's like, I have a list of 2 by.
Right? I do.
Fair.
I have a list of home books to be read, and I have a list of books that I need so that when I go to the store, I know which ones I'm looking for.
There you go. I can tell you, I know exactly which books I have not read in this house because they are not categorized and they are not organized.
Ooh.
So if it is in a stack, much like the books off camera here, if it is in a stack that does not seem to have a rhyme or a reason, it is a TBR.
So you organize your books.
Ish. I really just moved.
Interesting.
That's honestly, if that's organization, sure. It's really just usually when I move them out of the bag in order to use the bag for something else. So I move the books to what is considered a bookshelf, as it is a shelf with books on it at this point, but they are typically stacked sideways instead of like upright. They're stacked sideways, and once I read them, I stack them upright and put them, like, organize them on a shelf by genre.
Oh, interesting.
So it's very weird. So when somebody's like, hey, I need to borrow a book, I'm like, cool, anything on the shelves downstairs, have at. Because I know I've read or I'm not going to directly read any of those right now.
Yes.
So I'm like, those are free game. Take any one of those you want.
Ah.
Do you expect to get your books back when you loan them out?
You're assuming I loan books out.
Okay, do you loan books out?
Excuse me. Don't assume you know me.
Look, we have shared many a book. I have several of yours. Do you want them back?
I don't even remember. I remember having this conversation. I forgot I even loaned you the book, and I was like, where is this book?
I have a stack of books you just gave me.
I know.
Do you want them back?
No, those were bought for you.
Oh, well, thank you.
I didn't actually loan you anything. I bought you your own copy.
Well, here I am, assuming they're loaned, and I'm like, this is like, I have an Abby stack.
No.
Like,
no, that's yours now.
oh gosh. Okay, well, thank you.
Because this is what I do. So for our organization, there are books by the TV on opposite sides of the TV. Those are all hardback books.
Right. Those
because
are
they
show
stack
books.
Nicely.
Yes.
They look cute.
Fair.
We're aesthetic, but they're all hard copy.
Okay.
I have a very whimsy cutesy diagonal bookshelf.
I love that shelf.
And I went searching for all the colory, bright, colorful, fun covers. So I did that. And then everything else is just kind of a mishmash. I have a little bookshelf in my office of like books that I've read, and I put them in there so that I don't get excited and grab them again. So that I know
You've already read
I have
these.
read these.
These are finished.
But as far as I do keep all of them, I like my trophies.
Right?
But if I find a good book that I want to loan out, I'll either loan it or I'll buy you your own copy. Like if it's one that I think that you'll read and like not need to keep, then great. But if I give you a stack, your moon is showing.
I'm mooning people
You're
again.
mooning us.
I was trying to find something because I need to check if I'm a liar or not. Turns out I'm a liar. We'll get to that in a minute.
Well,
I'm a liar. It's fine. Sorry, continue.
No, but that's it. Like if I think there's a book that you're going to love or like I highly recommend, I'm going to buy you your own copy so that there is no pressure. But also I will loan out books. But when I loan out books, I don't really, they're not my favorites.
Okay.
So if I don't get them back, I'm not heartbroken.
Fair.
In fact, I'll probably forget. And when I look for a book to read it, I'm like, where the fuck is that book? And then you're like, oh, I have it.
I
like,
have it. It's mine.
So yeah, a lot of times when I loan out books, I don't anticipate getting them back.
Okay. That's fair.
Because I don't know how quickly you're going to read. I don't know what
with
your
me,
timetable is.
Not quickly at all. Because,
I have given you a stack. You are behind.
I'm aware.
You'd reach your goal if you'd read the books I gave you.
That's a lot of books.
I know.
I'd reach your goal if I read the books you gave me.
This is true. This is true.
For me, I just received bought? I can't remember. I think I purchased it. So it's this little like, it almost looks like a hole punch, except it doesn't punch holes. It's an embosser.
It looks like what are those? Like a notary stamp.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
And so it's got a little thing on it. It says from the library of, and then my name. And I stamp the first page of the books that I want to keep.
Okay.
Right? So if I loan them out, you know that they're supposed to come back to me, right? There is one book that I have that has been loaned out that I really do hope I get back. Because it is the first book in a series that I really want to keep together.
Did you stamp it?
I did stamp it.
Okay.
I did stamp it. We'll see if it comes back. And honestly, if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. I will get it back at another time, which is why I just checked that book.
I was going to say, is
that one's no, that one's not stamped because I literally just read it yesterday.
Too new?
And the thing is, I don't stamp them until after I read them.
Oh.
So that's my way of being
That's how
like,
you
you've
know.
read this, right?
Okay.
My mom puts her initials in the top corner with the date, so she knows when she read it. So I've done that. So if I have borrowed a book from her, I will also put my initials in it right underneath hers. And when I give it back, then we know that we've both read it.
Mm-hmm.
And it can go somewhere else. I love that as an option. But for the ones that are mine,
It's like a library checkout card.
It is. So for mine, I stamp them so I know I've read it. So like before you leave, I will probably stamp yours. So I'd be like, hey,
stamp that,
so I've read it.
I want that book back.
Right. Well, I mean, honestly, I read it and I could read it again, but it's super cute and I will eventually get all of them. But that's how I organize the ones that I've already read. So if it's a TBR, it doesn't have a stamp in it.
Okay.
And I will tell you, this is something that goes back to high school and beyond for me because I had an ink stamp. That it was literally just like letters. You could just put letters onto the ink stamp thing. And I think I put like first initial, last name. And then I think I put library or book or something like that. And every time I finished one, I would stamp the inside cover.
Oh, okay.
So there are books that I have that have my name stamped in them. And even when we were kids, right? I was just going through the kids' books and I opened one and it literally says my name and my chicken scratch handwriting from 3rd grade. It has my first name in that damn book. I've been writing my name in books forever.
So this is a thing.
This is the thing.
This is not
apparently this is the thing, like this is how I categorize for my own self. You've read this book. You've read this one. You know, you've done this, you've accomplished this. And so when I loan them out, do I expect to get them back? I would like to. I am also not just lending them out willy-nilly to people I don't know. Yeah. But I'm also not going to be like, hey, you got that book back?
Right.
Like, I'm not going to go asking for it.
No.
And normally, like, if I'm lending to you, if I'm lending to mom, if I'm lending to it, like, I know it's coming back.
Yeah.
Like I'm not worried
I'm not that
about
type of person. I will worry about it.
But I'm also not I'm not just like, hey, mom at the supermarket that I just saw and I happen to have this book in my pocket. You can have it. That's no.
Yes.
One, I probably haven't stamped it. And two, I'm probably not getting it back. So
Yes.
unless I'm willing to part with it forever, and if I bought it brand new, that might not be the case. Unless I'm willing to part with it forever, it's staying.
That's why I don't. I mean, I talk about this. I feel like I'm just kicking a dead horse here, but I don't buy new books. I just don't. I buy used books. And I think that's kind of why I'm able to loan them out or leave them places. Because I'm not worried about reading it again. And so this is what I do when I go on trips. I just recently got back. I took a couple books that could have gone either way that I would read. And if it was great, I would bring it home with me.
Okay.
And if it was not great, I would leave it.
Did you trade any while you were gone?
I tried.
I'm sorry, were you denied a trade?
I tried. So the place I went had a little library where people do this.
Okay.
And you can leave books, like you're on a beach vacation. There's a little library that
Perfect.
people have read books and they leave them. They don't want to take them back with them. And so I read this book and it was not great. And I was like, I'm not wasting the space.
Right, I'm not taking this back in my
No,
suitcase.
No. So I went into the little library and I put it on the shelf and I was looking to see if anybody else had left anything that I wanted to read. Not the case. So I didn't trade. I just left. But I feel like that is a good way too, like the little lending libraries, because I don't typically reread books a lot. There are a few that I do. And if I know that I'm definitely not coming back to a book, I will leave it. I will drop it in a lending library. I'm probably not going to recommend it to anybody. I'm just going to drop it somewhere. Seat back pocket of an airplane.
Oh, my heart.
Lending library, resort library, whatever.
Resort library, lending library, fine with me. It's the airplane. An airplane that gets me every time.
Could you imagine if you got on an airplane and there was a book in the back pocket and you're like, oh.
Why don't we just put a little lending library in the airplanes instead then?
Works for me. I'm creating my own in the seat back pocket.
But not everyone. We've done this.
We're starting a movement.
We've done this.
Leave your books in the back seat pockets.
Don't
We're
leave your
making
books.
airplane lending libraries.
Okay, follow me on this trip, yeah? If you were to purchase a book full price, a new book full price, how long are you holding on to it before you lend it, trade it, or give it away? If you liked it.
If I liked it, it's probably going to stay on my shelf. If I thoroughly enjoyed it and thought you would enjoy it, it'll come to you pretty quickly.
And
am I leaving it somewhere for strangers? No.
Are you lending it with a caveat? Say it's not me. Say it's somebody from exercise class, right?
Another friend?
Another friend. Somebody who you know, but on like a tertiary level, right? Are you giving it out with a caveat that's like, hey, totally think you would love this book. Just let me know when you're done. Like, we can swap it back in a couple weeks when you're done with it. Are you putting a caveat in it like, I want this bad bitch back? Like,
no, I probably just wouldn't loan it out because then I would be worried about it.
Okay.
The whole time. And the other person may not be worried about it. And you kind of have to put that like, it's almost like you have to have like a written agreement. Like, I'm going to give you this book, but you have to read it and I need it back. And that means you have to read it quickly because
within a reasonable amount of time.
We're on a timeline. Like, you can't have it for a whole year. I think that just opens up too much.
Okay, so I am in a situation right now where I am the receiver of a series of books.
Read it and give it back.
I have not read it. I have not given it back. And every time I look at it, I'm like, I need to return this.
See, that's like...
But I also really want to read it.
It's a whole lot of pressure that I just can't.
It is, but it's not somebody I see every day or every week or whatever.
Oh,
like, we check in every once in a while.
Okay.
And I swear if she were like, I want that series of books back, I'd be like, oh my God, you're totally right. I'm so sorry. Because I am sorry and I haven't gotten to it and, ABZ, whatever. So, but I'm in that space where every time I look at it, I have a tiny bit of guilt.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, it's a 3-book series.
Right.
Of, not a considerable girth, but definitely enough that I'm like, ooh, that's probably about...
She got a couple C's.
That's probably 1,000 pages of reading. Right? Between 3 books, which is not unheard of.
And you know what's so crazy is you're probably worried and feeling guilty, but maybe they aren't.
Right?
They're not worried about them.
And that's the thing. When I'm lending a book out,
Yeah.
if I have given you a book, if I've given Mom a book, if I've given Missy a book, like, I'm not expecting to see it back for a while, but I know it eventually will show up in my house,
show up,
right?
yeah.
It'll show up and it's like, hey, you know, it'll come back in a bag with other books. It's like, hey, here are the ones that I've read that you gave me, and here are the ones that I've read that I'm giving you.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So that's
Yes.
so much of a trade loan,
Yeah.
like, wave situation that I've lost count, right?
Yeah.
There are certain things that sometimes I'll get a book back and I'm like, did I read this? Which is why I stamp it. But there are things where I'm like, I don't think I've read that one. So I have to look for the initials for the thing, like, because we swap books
Yeah.
back and forth so often.
Yeah.
And then there's also the fact that, especially with Mom, we love so many of the same authors.
Yeah.
That I'm like, did we collectively read this?
Did
And
we? Yes.
we have to have the conversation before I buy one where I'm like, have we read this book?
Did we
Do I
already
need
see
this?
this one?
Right?
Yeah.
And so, but I love that as far as the community piece of being able to share and
Yes.
to talk about and that sort of thing. But if I'm lending it, for the most part, yeah, I would love to see it back. But if I need to rebuy it, I'll rebuy it.
Yeah, same. And I
So.
have done that on several occasions. And Greg is the same way. Like, we just rebought a book that he loaned a friend, and he was like, I don't think I'm going to see it back. And it was one of his favorite books.
And he was like, I want it.
And he was like, you should read this. You should read this. And it's one he loans, like, to a lot of people. He's like, I just don't think I'm going to see it back. And I think that's just it. I just takes the pressure off of myself to not have to worry about whether I see it. So if I loved it and I think you'll love it, I'll probably buy your own copy.
Which is very, like, generous of you.
It's the power of used books, baby.
Right? I need to get into used books because I think I'd be much better at gifting them
Yeah.
than I would loaning them.
Yeah.
But I am also, gifting to me is such a big, not like a responsibility, but it's like so important to me. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
That's a deep gift.
Yeah. And like, if I read something and think that you will enjoy it and have gifted it to you, like, yes.
That's a
And gifting
huge
is
thing.
different than, I feel like gifting is much different than just loaning.
Yes.
Or sharing.
Yes.
Right? If I'm giving you my copy, I was like, hey, I think you like this, blah, blah, blah. Other than, I've bought you this book.
Yeah. This is
Like,
for you.
that's a
I
big
thought
deal.
about you as I was reading
Right?
this, and I think
And
you
now I
need
want
your own copy.
Yep, and now I want you to have it.
Yeah.
Like, A,
Huge.
tears in my eyes, thank you very much. Mm-hmm. B, oh my god, I can't believe you thought of me in that way.
Holy
I'm
shit.
excited to read what this
Yes.
is. And C, it's also going to sit on my shelf in my TBR until I get there. So,
Right.
like,
Until I'm ready.
right,
Yes.
it is a series of
It's a whole lot of
very
emotions.
fortunate events.
There's a whole lot of emotions that go into that.
Right. But
Yeah, I think
it's
it's
still
just
a thing.
But I think that's just kind of how you and I are too. Like, we worry about stuff like that. We would think about stuff like that,
I worry about everything.
but other people might not. So I would say it depends.
I hate that answer.
I know.
It depends is my least favorite answer.
So are you
Oh no.
buying new books? Do you prefer brand new books?
So I haven't found a really great used book store
Okay.
that carries the things that I am super interested in reading.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
And so, especially right now, there's not a lot of used bookstores that have the historical fiction I like. Used bookstores aren't really super excited about World War II or Holocaust books. They're not. Like, the Holocaust is not something that people are just brimming to read about. So it's not something that people are donating, right? So if I want to read that stuff, that is a genre that I am very interested in. I'm very interested in the history. I'm very interested in learning. I'm very interested in figuring out how people work and why we do the things that we do. Those books are not in a used bookstore,
Yeah.
right? And then you have the other side of that where there's so many books that I have read. I like them to be a little bit, like I said, the bookstores I'm envisioning do not have the organization that I need to be
Yeah.
able to adequately source the books that I want.
To know if they have the ones that you're looking for.
Right. And every time, like, if I go into a thrift store, love a thrift store.
Yes.
Those do not have the books that I want ever. I don't need 18 books on how to hang a shelf. I'm still going to do it wrong. I'm not buying your book.
I'm not.
Right, but those are the books that they have. Now,
Interesting.
did I purchase a crud ton of older books from a thrift store to create a feature wall that has never been created? Yes.
Because they were super cutesy and super old.
I haven't done it yet. It's still a thought. It's still a thought in my brain, but I also can't bear the thought of like ruining a book. So that's a different story altogether. But I'm not, if I could find a local used bookstore that had the things that I wanted, yes, I would buy used books.
Yeah.
But since I don't have that, and I do have several bookstores, now I love a small bookstore,
Yeah.
right? An independently owned bookstore. We have one down the street. Love it. I'm going to pay those prices.
Yeah.
Because I know, I learned who the owners are. I know the people in there. They are hosting their book clubs. They're doing like, they are holding the community of readers.
Yeah.
I'll buy a full price book from them.
Okay.
But at the same time, I can't do it all the time because books are expensive.
Yeah.
And
Books
if you
are
go
so
to somewhere
expensive.
like a Barnes and Noble, right? I love Barnes and Noble, but it's also because I can walk in there and they're like, hey, you have $75 worth of credit here. I'm sorry, what? Granted, is that a ton of books at that bookstore? No, but I
Yes.
can get 6.
Right.
Right? I can get 6 brand new books.
And you know that you can go over the ease of shopping at a brand new bookstore.
Convenience is huge.
Is you just go in and you're like, okay, this is my shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And I can pick anything on here and I know I will walk out happy.
Exactly. And so it's, and that or the fact that like they've got, hey, here are all of your like recent reads from the people who work here. Cool. That like sounds awesome. They've got
I love
the
those.
amount of books is there. And also on the convenience side, I don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, to peruse bookshops as much as I would love to. I don't have a lot of time. So sometimes I have an hour and a half to go in, make a sweep, make my suggestions, and get my butt home.
Yeah.
That's a big bookstore thing because I can consume a lot of choices in a small amount of time.
Yeah. You have a lot of options
I do.
that could satisfy your needs.
Exactly. And half the time I don't know what I need when I get in there anyway.
Right? You don't. And that's the thing. You just don't know. I think that's the thing for me with buying used books. You don't know what you're going to come across at a Goodwill store. Like, it is so random. Mm-hmm. But I think that's kind of the fun of it. You know?
I think it's just the people around here are not donating books that I read.
They are just not. I am so sorry.
I think they're probably sharing them with their friends, honestly.
They probably
I
are.
think they're sharing with them with their friends, which is great. Like, cool. Keep it out of the thrift store and keep it in the hands of your friends. That's great. But that means that I'm not finding what I need.
Right. Well, I'll continue to share them with you.
I appreciate it. I did find a gorgeous copy of Dorian Gray.
Yeah?
Which I have not read because I actually think I might buy a different copy of that book
'Cause it's just so pretty.
because this one is old and it's very much like, I think I actually looked at the date to be like, how old is this book? But it's one of those that like you can tell when you flip the pages, they are very delicate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to read and enjoy this book.
Yeah.
Because I have not.
But we're
But
just gonna...
now I have to go.
This is just a pretty trophy.
Right,
I need
I
a readable
think.
copy now.
And that's the thing. It's same with my Dracula book. That is not a readable copy.
Yeah.
I have I think it's a Swiss Family Robinson book. It's the same way. They have seen better days, and one sideways wink from a fly is gonna knock that thing into smithereens.
Yeah.
It's gonna be dust.
Yeah.
So we just don't touch it.
No, that's an off limits book.
Yeah, it's just that is a trophy.
Yeah. I think I've seen the stamps like you have. Of course, now that's just what just keeps showing up, and I'm like, that could be really cool. And then I'm like, why would I do that though? I don't loan my books out.
See, I do.
I keep all of them.
I loan a lot of them. I think if I were a book gifter, that would be different for me, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
But I think I think part of it's because I don't like my handwriting. My mom has really cute handwriting, and I don't. And so I'm like, I'll just put a stamp in mine so I know that this one's mine, and then I don't have to put my chicken scratch next to my
You
mother's
don't
scrawly
actually have to
cursive.
write in a book. Book-ick.
But that's the thing. I think it's just a different way to kind of commemorate the fact that I read it. And also, it feels really cool when you put your hand on it.
Yeah.
And that is the tactile portion of me that's like, that's neat.
Yeah, it's super cute. I do like it, and I have considered getting one. I just don't know if I would use it. My collection is huge.
What better way to use it then?
Yeah. Nobody would ever see it because I don't loan books out.
I don't think it matters. It's
I would
for you.
just stamp the ones I give you anyway. Be like, haha, gift from. Then maybe that's what I'll do.
Maybe, there you go. Maybe, because you can write whatever you want on it.
Gift
A gift from.
Yeah.
Oh,
Done.
and then you can choose, like, you can choose the image on the inside. Like, mine is an open book with flowers coming out of it.
Yes.
There are, like, little dragons, and there are, like, there's, like, books and coffee. There's so many options. I got mine off of Amazon.
That might be an idea.
That's a really good idea. Look at you.
Because I do. But then they would know who to find when you leave it on the airplane.
Don't put your last name on it.
Maybe I don't want evidence.
Don't put your last name on it. Or just write a gift for you.
Ah.
A gift for you works.
Yes, it does.
And then there's no
Who knows?
traceable name.
And then maybe I would be loaning more out. I think I do have that issue, though. Because I don't reread a whole lot of books. But if they have a cutesy cover, I'm definitely keeping it because it looks cute on the shelf. If it's like a thriller book, like I already know the plot and the plot twist, I'm probably not reading that again. But I'm probably not going to lend it out because...
It's a very specific human who will read that.
Yeah. And then also, like, do I donate it to a thrift store somewhere?
Do you want to?
I
Do
don't
you
know.
donate a lot of things to thrift stores?
I don't.
I have the intention to, and they just sit in the back of my car for 6 to 8 weeks
But
until
also,
eventually I get there.
I also love hoarding them and, like, trophy collection.
Right?
Like, seeing it on my shelf. I don't know. Maybe that's why. Maybe I just don't like parting with books. And that's why I buy you your own copies.
Which is fair. Which is very fair.
I
But
don't
I'm
know.
telling you,
Might be a bigger issue.
we might need a professional for
I
that.
might need some help.
I think that's why I have a lot of my books organized. Like my TBR stacks are organized between books I have been given and books that are purchased by me. Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, if I'm really at a loss where I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to read, I'm usually going to pick like off of the it was given to me side.
I was going to ask, which ones do you pick from
Because
first?
I'm like, because usually somebody will ask and they're like, well, have you read that? I'm like, no. Unless it's this book sitting right here where someone was like, hey, you should read this and you haven't yet. And I was like, you're right, I have not. Also, I just looked over there from one of our previous episodes and Invisible Monsters is sitting on that shelf right over there.
It's right there.
Yeah, it's right there.
It's right there.
It's right underneath the book I was just referencing that I have not read yet, but was gifted. Mm-hmm. Or, yes.
That might be a whole gift pile.
It's not. I bought 3 of those.
Okay.
I bought 3, I think. I'm going to look over there and there's going to be initials in the top of them. Crap. Sorry, Mom.
It's time to get reading.
Time to get reading. Finish those books so you can stamp them.
If your book goal doesn't motivate you, the guilt will.
Yes, it will.
We know what works.
We do. So how are you typically loaning, trading, gifting? Are you parting with books? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing
Where are
with
my
books?
fellow plane leavers? I can't
Yes,
be the only
make
one.
yourselves known so we can avoid you.
I need to find my people.
Or make yourselves known so I can book my flights after you and get free books.
Hey.
I don't hate that.
Love it.
Right?
Book plane leavers unite. BPLU. BPLU.
No. You hang out on Threads with that nonsense. You can take that to Threads.
I will find my book threads, Bookstagram, book talk, book girlies.
Wow. That was a lot. I like that. Congratulations. That was good. That was really good.
Thanks.
But honestly, what are you doing with your books? How are you keeping them? What does your TBR look like? Do you have a TBR? Are you a human that doesn't have a TBR because you are always caught up? What is that like?
What is that like?
Is
I'd
there-
love to know?
Are there people who do that? I think there's got to be.
There's got to be. There's some weirdos in the world.
I mean, there's got to be like a super, like, I think I was type A person, but there's got to be like an A+ person.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's another episode.
All right, fine. We'll talk about that another time.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for joining us.
We will see you next time.
Bye.
It was great to have you join us for today's chat. If you'd like to continue the conversation, provide a recommendation, or simply say hi, pop over to Instagram at wine.read.wine. Also, if you're the review type person, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave us an honest review on your favorite podcast player. Or leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. We'll see you on the next episode. Happy reading!